Hello everyone, I'm Ranjini. I'm currently working in a school in Miri. Today I'm going to talk about student ownership and independent learning. Next slide please, Haley. Right, what I mean by my somewhat fancy title is that student partnerships are key for fostering student ownership of learning and teaching and leadership. It sounds fancy, but actually all I'm going to talk about is how to get students to own up to their work. And so now in the past, before MCO started, sorry, again, Haley, next slide. Yeah, in the past, before MCO started, we teachers would be marking all of our students' work, or always, and there's always a pile of book in the class. Despite you marking every day diligently, there's always this one pile of book, and there's always something new for us to do. And I find that quite tedious because it's a never-ending work. And another thing I notice is that students are not very attentive on learning from mistakes. We correct their work, pass the book back to them. They probably take one glance at their work and then it's over. Or they don't seem to be learning from the corrections which we have pointed out. So these are the things I noticed before. And I'm going to tell you on how after MCO, during MCO, what I did. And so during MCO, I've been giving them homework assignments only when it's necessary. Now, so it's not every day I handpick the assignments, and so it is not burning for them, and it's not so burning for me too. Of course, it's not about me, it's about the students, I know that, but it's a win-win, so we handpick them. Next is, I also, like if I give them a task to do, a page of, from a maths book or something, I let them choose. Maybe in that page there are 25 questions, I maybe get them to do 10 questions and so on. So they are not so burdened with their work. And you can do it for every other assignment, but to kickstart, maybe you may want to start with a few assignments first. Next, test, no, not next slide, but the same slide. Next, no, back, yeah, next, test within reasons. I still test them occasionally. Like in school, we have end of term tests every other time. But now during this MCO, what I did was I only test them and I feel like they're ready for it. Because we did not really have proper tests in my schools, which is good. And I use quiz forms from Google, as it is a lot easier to mark them. And students also enjoy this kind of tests. An example on how we can test students by letting them choose, either an essay or some questions. Like we can always give them some kind of options. Like for example, if there are if there's a test, you can ask them to choose whether they want to do an essay test or multiple choice, or maybe short written answers. I do know some of my colleagues even let their students choose between long multiple choice test or a short multiple choice test and a brief essay or a long essay test only. So we are giving them options, choices, where which one they can do. It sounds like a lot of work preparing all these different kind of materials and so on. Actually, it's not really, because once you have the master copy or a template, you can always tweak the words, and so you can tailor it for your new lesson. So it's not so much. It's just that we have to put the first step, and later everything else will fall in place. Next, we have self-evaluation. So I always take 5 minutes at the beginning of my online class just to ask students the following questions. This not only gives them time to set in, but also to evaluate. So I ask them like, what did we learn today? I mean, what did we learn previously? Is there any questions from our previous lesson? And could I use this knowledge to take a test, complete an assignment, or accomplish something in life? I know the last bit was a bit too much, but these are the questions that we could ask children for them to self-evaluate. So this makes them responsible for their own learning in a concrete way. Another thing I started doing from MCO time is self-review, peer review. So I, like for example, I take an essay or if it's an essay or a simple writing, I will create a rubric for it. When the assignment is due, I provide students with a rubric and ask them to grade themselves. You can also
Ranjini,
give.
that is your 5 minutes. I'm going to let you wrap up. That's it. It's done.
Okay.
Let you finish off.
All right. Okay. So I'm just going to say that all I'm saying is maybe you can just go to the last slide, Haley. Are you going to do that? Yeah.
I've done
so
that.
all I'm saying is that we have to broaden their sense of responsibility. That's my point. That was what I was trying to say. I think it might have exceeded 5 minutes. Sorry, and thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Ranjini. I think you got your point across beautifully. I'm going to finish. I'm going to ask you a question. Why do you think it's important that we empower our students? Why is that important for you?
Because that's when they will take responsibility for their learning. Like if we always spoon feed them, that's what we usually teachers do. Traditionally, we spoon feed our children, and they don't become independent learners. They are still thinking, or when they go to the real world, they still need our other people's help. They're very dependent. So when we empower them, they take ownership of their work and they become independent people later on. So I think that's why we need to empower them now onwards. Yeah.
And so do you feel that your students will benefit a little bit from that move to get them to be more independent in their online learning?
Yeah.
Could there be a silver lining?
Yes, it makes my life easier. I mean, not only mine, all teachers' life, because we are supposed to be facilitators, not spoon feed them all the time. So it's that's the big picture.
Excellent. Thank you very much.